This morning, let us try to get the deepest realization possible of the subject that we are talking about, which is a great, great subject, and that is I am the resurrection and the life. And what I'd like to look at this morning is the mystical meaning, the underlying invisible meaning of consciousness that runs beneath, above, over, and around and through the Easter and Passover seasons, which is that undercurrent, is that supreme laser beam of consciousness, that current of consciousness by which we are alerted through the seasons and through the outer celebration. We are reminded and we are alerted of the way by which we may alter our lives and transform our lives completely. The way by which, if we shall take this avenue, we may rise up and spring forth, fully formed, the new being of light. The full birth of the new being of light come forth that we are right now. The way that we may rise up totally free from anything of the past, totally unencumbered, and soar to those heavens of greatness that Reverend Joy was talking about. So at this time, we are alerted that we have ever the potential and the opportunity to be born anew in consciousness, in conscious awareness of who we are in the instant. We may be born anew as the life of eternal day and the power and the glory of the new dawn. So what is that power within us? It is that power divine. It is our divinity in action and making its statement. It is that power that Christ recognized and connected to for his overcoming of it all, for his total resurrection and ascension. It is that power plant that is available within us, without us, all that is, for us to tap into at the moment of choice. So Christ connected to this greater fount of power, and that was his stamina to move through every challenge as he rose into the perfect expression of his divinity and brought it out. And this power, once he aligned his consciousness with it, was the final release and the complete release from all encumbrance of the earth. And when I say the earth, I mean of weighty things. You know, all the worries and problems and fears and stuff that goes through our minds. Through aligning with a higher idea about himself, he was able to release attachment to those lower ideas. And then, of course, anything that we realize in mind, you know, is immediately incorporated into the body. Well, you know, it's a package. You know, body, mind, spirit is a one package that comes together. So nothing happens in any dimension that does not have evidence in every other dimension and flow through and make a statement. Okay, it is the same power that the Jewish people claimed and owned within their hearts, that they identified, and by which they were saved from death. The angel of death passed over them because their consciousness of life, which is light, made their statement, and they were saved from harm, okay? And they were raised and passed into their liberation as a consciousness, as a people. So this power that is the divine power within us, which is the God within us, is the eternal light of victory, the victory of spirit that we are. And make no mistake about it, we are to use this power and bring out our victory in each and every circumstance, no matter how small, no matter how great. So our divine destiny, established from the beginning, because we are God's seed, God's atom unfolding, the atom of divine life unfolding, our destiny is to establish from the beginning this power, this recognition, and is to rise anew in each and everything. each and every one of us, to rise anew out of the shell, the containment of each and every experience that we encounter, thus manifesting successfully the true pattern of perfect God life that we are. That pattern that is imprinted on our very DNA cells, but which cannot be released unless we recognize and own it in consciousness. So that's that latent power within us. Every time our consciousness makes a recognition, I am one with God, with divine life, releases the atom and the energy, the substance, into our very being and into our brain cells, and uplifts us and directs us as to the way of overcoming. Okay? So we are the true pattern of perfect life. Now, to gain access to this great power, we must own and claim within, without question, without division, without doubt, no matter how we feel, no matter what our trial is, no matter what's going on, we must claim it unabashedly, unashamedly. You know, I am one with God, no matter what. This is the truth of my being. Claim this, acknowledge this perfection and sweetest and glorious life stream as our own. And that means this life that cannot know death or 1 ounce of defeat. There is no truth to I can't. The great I within you does not know what you are speaking of. You know, you can choose to say, I don't feel like it right now. That would be honest. But to say the I of you, which is God, cannot, that is not the truth. So we must totally identify with this cosmic, ineffable essence that we are, and no less, or we shall remain in the lesser stage of carrying the cross of separation up that hill. And that means carrying those burdens and encumbrances and programming and conditioning up the hill. You know, and that's a lot of weight. We can all attest to that, right? And it hurts in addition. So it is not until we live the full consciousness of I and the Father are one. I and the Father are one. The great Spirit of life are one, that we can stand still and sterling in our knowing. And as a testimony, testifying to the truth of being, that I and the Father are one, in spite of the whatevers, in spite of the challenges. It's just a challenge. It came to pass. It came for you to speak your word. I and the Father, the great Father of love, glory, victory, whatever, are one. Testify to the truth. And when we do this, and we fully unify with the first cause of life in our being, that cause which we know is in charge and the authority of all form worlds. That means the authority of all your conditions, whether they be physical, mental, emotional, whatever. The first cause of all of life is in charge and supremely in charge of the alchemy of that form. But you must utilize the great power and stop with the efforting that we seem to do over experiences. Thus, we may take on its splendor, and we inherit the capacity to alchemize each and every event of challenge before us. So in the moment of highest realization, I and the Father, the great nameless one, the I of me, are one. Our Lord, our God is one in this perfect, full realization of oneness throughout all and without exception. We achieve our emancipation, our following transfiguration, and we move into the new beingness, and we put on the seamless robe, the robe of perfection of Atman, God-man, God-woman, arrived in consciousness. So in this moment, and we've all had moments of unification with the entire universe of being. We've had our cosmic moments. We know what they feel like, and we know that we feel so connected to all that is. In these moments, the breath the divine breath of unification pours out upon us, charges us up, and in this moment we are vitalized, every cell of our being, by the new awareness of I am eternal life, I am that which can never be bound, and we break free and we become the fulfillment of the law of our great being. We become that. It is said that the strongest statement, and if you could just remember this, there are sort of key words, the strongest statement we can ever use for transforming any situation, that means turning it to good, turning it to resemble the power of life, right? To incorporate the power of life. The greatest statement that we can use to make the crossover, and this is the crossover point on the cross, let's say, this is the point of transcendence where you come out of the earthly phase and you move into your divinity by saying, I am the resurrection and the life. It's like the alchemical plus. If you said this over, the plus, right, that passes you over into the higher phases. I am the resurrection and the life. And you can look a situation when you're meditating and you're viewing a situation, a condition that you're right now in. You can just get quiet and you can speak these words of truth to that situation in your mind's eye, and you can watch it, witness it transform in front of you. So it's like an application of truth from the depth of your being. This resounds from the depth of your being, and it's all power because it is the truth. Right? I realize these words. I am the resurrection and the life. If this is the truth, can there be any stop to me? Can there be anything that I cannot regenerate, transform through the power of my consciousness and alignment? Is there anything I cannot rise above? Is there anywhere that I must resign to failure or take less than perfection for myself? No. So through the I am the resurrection and the life, I begin to direct my consciousness to perform that alchemical action upon the whatever. All right? And there can be no truth to failure because God doesn't know failure. God has the tools. God knows how. God is you. Okay? So the I am within us is a fount of all our powers, the God self. The I am within us. And I am is the sacred statement of God being. I am that I am, and thou shalt have no other before me. I am fill in the blank. I am the resurrection. I am the transformation. I am the transfiguration. I am the power of your life. I am that which succeeds completely. I am that which rises up over everything. How often have we misused these great words by saying, I am sick? Can you believe that? Now the personality, may be going through something. And it's perfectly okay to say, I'm experiencing something. Because you don't want to suppress it. But you must know that there is that greater within you that can overcome all. And say, even though I feel this way, even though I seem to be going through this, I know that the great I am within me has the way out for me and is the light of my life and is the open door and is my free passage. So never degrade your God self by using the mighty force of your word. All your force of creation is contained in the word, I am, the words I am. So even in spite of what you're feeling, when you say I am, fill it out, thoughtfully. Even if you have to stop in the middle of a conversation and stop yourself, do it. So that you start to rise above and you use the magnificence of your I am power to speak the truth and to create what you want to experience. All right, so God within us we know can never be, otherwise the universe would have fallen apart. Anything less than the greatness of I am cannot know anything about these conditions we speak of, yet only knows of our completeness and our ability in all, for God can only know the perfection that we are because we are divine creations, born of the breath of God, from the mind of God. All right, so in the seed of our challenges, this is what is so wonderful. If we can You know, they say, let's not call things problems. Let's call them our divine challenge, our divine opportunity. In the seed of our challenges is the potential outpouringness of I am, the atom of I am. In the midst, I am here. In the midst, I am here. You have only to speak the name, speak my name, the word of words, call upon me. So when you look over your right now circumstance, know that is there any triumph of good for your spirit, for the expression of your spirit, that you have relinquished, that you have given up on, that you have thought could never be so? Well, realize right now, this is the very area for you to take out now and revitalize and fulfill. This is right now your divine opportunity to take it out, revitalize, stay with it, and fulfill through I am the mighty resurrection and the life, and nothing stops me. Is there anything, ask yourself, that you have abandoned? Anywhere where you have abandoned your divine self, given up hope in frustration or despair, even in the least little bit, where you are taking less? Where you have placed your gold of good in a tomb, as it were? This is where, in this glorious Easter and the Passover, over all difficulties, you're going to roll back that stone of negativity, that encumbrance of the I can'ts and the negativity, and you are to walk out anew and shining and transfigured. Let's make it our point, each one of us, to have, a resurrection where it counts for us in our lives. Take out something very precious to you, a precious idea, a precious jewel, and just say, I'm working with God on this. I'm working with the infinite power, and I'm bringing it through, and I'm bringing it through. All right? So bring it through, not through outer forcing, but through reminding yourself of the great truth, releasing the negatives, contact with your divinity, and your impeccable, unfailing source. This is where your greatest realization and your greatest reward shall be, the natural reward of your great realization of truth, of good, about yourself. Your greatest statement of the truth of your being to date shall be this, the one that you've hidden the most is the one you're going to bring out, okay? Nothing can come between you and your God. And this that I'm speaking of is beyond all karma, beyond all cause and effect, beyond accumulation of whatever, for it is God's word, it is the statement of your being, and God frees you now from this encumbrance. You understand what I'm saying? No more, well, it's my karma. No more none of this. Right now, the cosmos is standing ready to free anybody and anybody who's ready to accept. Throughout the entirety of the millenniums, I don't care how long you think you've been around, right now is the moment of your freedom, and accept. You are free. So in moving from our sense of humanness and smallness, where we're relying upon ourselves to do, and moving into total acceptance of the dominion of our higher self and becoming one with our higher self that knows. This path isn't always easy, right? Not that it isn't easy. Once you've arrived, of course, it's supremely easy. But it's not easy. It seems not to be easy because of the force of our resistance and the force of our own negative belief systems about ourselves. And that is the thing that causes the stress, not the thing itself that we're talking about. When you have corrected whatever is on your mind, and you're standing there, you're going to say, oh, this is easy, But it's the steps toward it that aren't. So realize it's not the thing itself that you're going after that is hard. It is your own resistance, or the force of the ideas of limitation. that encumber you. So this is what I mean by the path isn't easy, because we've got to have backbone, we've got to make decisions, we've got to make commitment, we've got to go for the goal, and we've got to stay with what we're going for until we get it. Like a postage stamp, stick on the letter until it gets there, like a laser beam. Keep your lights strong until it gets to its point, so that it shall not diminish. All right, so Christ's life, we know all the lives of all greats were filled with many challenges. And the Jewish people have moved and through many challenges and through various stages of, release from enslavement and persecution. But is that enslavement and persecution on the outer? No, it is on the inner, and our own enslavement is reflected to us by the outer conditions. So if we can remember these things, we can get emancipated, because we can stop saying, I blame this person, that person, If we can stop saying that and say, it's my own enslavement that this message out here is reminding me of, and let me free myself from this enslavement. So the story is ever the same. It is just, it's mythical. It's cosmic, the story of emancipation. There's nothing that anyone has experienced that, all of us have experienced to some degree. We have universal experiences in our rise out. And so let's recognize these are just the challenges of our growth. But the outcome depends upon us, how we handle the consciousness of how we handle things. It's how we handle what is given to us that counts as how to, whether or not we're going to have the glorious outcome, the triumphant outcome, or we're going to have some work left to do. So shall we take up the sacred fire in the quest of our divinity and absolute realization of who we are, or is it all too much for us? Let me just pull the cover over my head. And believe me, there are temptations on the way, because those are the points where you strengthen, you make decisions, and you strengthen like the sinews of your consciousness by passing through these phases. The Tibetan Book of Dead, they call it the bardos, moving through phases, all right? So there are temptations and all sorts of erroneous thoughts and belief systems to overcome, but aren't we greater than all of these? Aren't we? And isn't that wonderful? And it is said, and this is a good thing to reflect upon, that the divine wisdom within us and a loving Father never, never, never brings us more than we are actually, in our reality, equipped to handle at any given time. So even when we feel overwhelmed, it's not true. It's just that we have to come out of the overwhelm and go for solution. But the Divine Father would never bring us more than we can handle to bring out the greater gift. So, and Divine Father, Mother principle of life that loves you never abandons you. Never, never abandons you. There is no abandonment in spirit. So never believe that there is any truth to I can't or any reason to despair. Give up or die to life or the truth of your being. One more time. Don't believe it. Go all the way up and out into your glory. So know you are the ever new, self-regenerating breath of spirit, of overflowing life that cannot be stopped, who has ways and means beyond human conception, and who always comes out right. You always come out right. I love this statement, and I say it to myself often. I am that, or I am one with that which brings everything out magnificently and triumphantly in my life. I am that which brings everything out magnificently, gloriously in my life. I am the light of spirit and the herald of unimaginable good where I am. You may leap. I'll just tell you one story before we finish. You may leap in an instant, and some of you know this, from the pits of despair, that which we call the hell consciousness, Because everything, heaven and hell, are of consciousness, right? And we move from varying states, right, in our consciousness. You can move from the pit of despair, agony, to the heights of heaven in an instant, and through this statement, I am the resurrection and the light, that will take you up to your 7th chakra immediately. It's a great elevator. And I'll just tell you, one thing that I've had many things happen, but one thing that illustrates this, I had been working on an issue, I was seeking a solution to a problem, and it was something I'd invested a lot of energy and time into, something I cared about, and I just could not, find the thing to finally complete the thing for myself, and I was in agony about this. And I just said, this, I'm laying there and really in the pits. You know that feeling?
No, never had it.
And I said, God, I give up on this. I've tried, I've done. I have done my best. I've looked in a million places. I've done all I can do. And I was down because I wasn't satisfied with what it hadn't completed for me yet, this project I was working on, and it didn't have the element that would allow me to say, I'm thrilled with it. That's perfect. Now that's done. That feeling of satisfaction? And I was really in pain about it on an emotional plane. And I realized that as I was laying there in my grief, and confronting the infinite, and contemplating this, suddenly the thing came up with me and said, God is the completeness and wholeness of it all. What kind of a God are you believing in, Linda? And I said, there it is. I'm believing in a God who doesn't fulfill me, who would abandon me, who after I've invested all my time in this project would just leave me in despair. Now listen, Linda, I said to myself, or this God, I don't believe in you anymore, and you're not my God of choice. The God I choose to put my power behind is a God that completes me, who has the perfect answer that shall not just make do, but that shall thrill me and I shall be satisfied. Not just a good answer, an okay answer, but the thrilling answer that shall satisfy me and I shall be complete and I shall be able to leave this. I realized, in that in my consciousness span from the idea of a failing God. Right now my God would have been to have the answer for me. A failing God to this. And then I went to sleep. I said, how would you feel, if you had the answer? How would you feel? Get that feeling of total satisfaction of having. And then I just gave thanks, and I made my insistence once again. I made my declaration once again that my God is complete and doesn't leave me in limbos. And I woke up in the morning, and suddenly this energy ran through me, and I knew instantly what to do. And I completed the project, and I stood back, and I said, this is a wonder of wonders. And I was so happy beyond belief because I'd worked on this for a couple of years. And it was the final touch. I said, now I'm complete. Now I'm in heaven. This is thrilling. Now I know every time I come to look at this project, I can say how wonderful it is. It met my own level, right? And so I moved overnight. Before I went to sleep, I made this statement, through my emotions, that I'm not accepting a God of less. And because I made my declaration, it brought forth the answer that was always there, right? It was just that spark, the last mile. So you can, and I was in heaven, believe me, and I was in hell, believe me. And I moved, believe me, and I'm happy to date, believe me, okay? So this is, this is the story, all right? This is just one case in point. But I was transfigured. I raised myself. I rose so high, and everything transfigured with that missing element came to my mind before me. I was the transfiguration. I was the transformation. I was the resurrection with regard to that area. And again, the great, as in all challenges through that, I realized a great principle of truth. So here is the great power. Do not accept less. And who is the God of your being? I ask you, do not accept less. This is the great power that we may utilize and call upon, and we can realize that everything comes under its dominion, for it is the power of truth, and this power has been given us for our use, for we are God's children. This power is so great, that it can sweep up in a perfect instant. You know, like a tornado sweeps through? It can sweep up in a perfect instant and bring all things right for you. Remember, I am that which brings all things right, all things magnificently. It is beyond conception in its unlimited magnificence and magnitude and power. It is your life, your strength, your grace, your sufficiency in all, your emancipation, your assuredness, your absolute promise of fulfillment, and no less. You are the point where it flows through your determination, your faith, and your recognition. Shall we have a knowing, a faith that is partial, like I had at that instant? Or shall we be invincible in truth and rise like Jesus, the fully Christed consciousness, illumined beings? Shall we stop short of our good? Never, not ever, personally or collectively. Okay? For we have the fire of divine will, and we have the highest purposes of life before us, and love and perfect fulfillment in mind. We are spring, and we have sprung now. We are new. We are risen even now. Testimony to the great truth of our being. All right, so let's just do a short meditation to solidify this action for us. And we know, wherever we are during this time, that we are being the resurrection and the life that we are in our favorite place, the place we most desire to be. So let us take a deep, full breath. Knowing that the breath that we breathe is a breath of complete spirit, the light and love of it all, that it fills us to the highest high, to the summit of consciousness, and we are instantly elevated. And as we charge on this breath of divine life, we have risen to the high and holy place of truth, where we are one with the supreme light of being that radiates throughout worlds and dimensions without ceasing. We are one with Jesus, the Christ mind, the Buddha, all sages and masters of all time. We are gathered together in a one celebration with all the illumines of the centuries. Right now, we are blessed to be in the highest company of highest thought and knowing. And now each one of us lays that garland of truth out before, permeating the atmosphere of being, filling the air of the cosmos and all that is. And we are in our seamless garments, the pure light of God, which we now wear, for even now we are the complete knowing of it all. And let us say, silently with words that speak and ring throughout all levels of being. I am that which overcame all. I have brought out all according to my divinity and the light within me and the truth of my being. I am the garland of victory in all my areas of greatest challenge, as you can see right now. I have done the thing. That which used to be my greatest challenge is now my sweetest pearl of glowing divine victory, which I extend in my hand as a gift of grace and blessing to the entire universe. I am satisfied and I am grateful. And so it is. So just remember, I am the transformer, I am the resurrection and the life. I am that which is. Okay, so just remember this. We'll read our I am statement now together. Again, as a way of sealing our consciousness. But just remember this week, when you go into your moments, and take frequent moments to meditate and to say this truth to yourself, I am the resurrection and the life, and say it for your friends. If a friend comes to you, and they've got an issue that they're working on, and when you think about them quietly, just, rather than coming up against the personality or whatever, just silently know the truth. You are the resurrection and the life. You are it. Okay? And you'll be doing a great thing of consciousness for them. Okay? So let's read our words together now. And letting these words absorb within our being. I am that I am. And right now I declare there is nothing that I do not perfect, for I have the power of the ages within me. There is nothing I seek to express that I do not attain, for the glory of the Great One breathes through me. There is nothing that I am that I do not bring out complete, for the flame of God life and the fire of divine light burns within me. I bring out the glory of I am that I am, and apply it in every circumstance of my life without exception. I sweep the mighty majesty of love over all, and I am victorious, emancipated, and freed. I harness the energy of each and every circumstance and circulate it through divine fields of knowing within, throughout every nerve center, cell memory, and chakra sublime. In this way, I pass all through me, and all comes out purified by my divine transforming heart. None can offend. I am ever the resurrection and the life. I ever transcend and rise above, baptized and uplifted anew in the fire of divine light. Glory streams through my consciousness now, awakening every center and illumining me. I am one in the great spirit of life. I have overcome the world. I am radiant. I am God's glowing chalice of peace, full, rich, radiant, restored, joyous, and superbly complete. On the mountaintop summit of highest awareness, I say, thank you, God. Thou hast raised me by the light of supreme knowing. I am the transfiguration. Every ounce of my world radiates thy power and perfection. I am the truth made known, and so it is.